Star Wars 7x7 episode 2881. All right, we are 2 days away from Star Wars Celebration, and I thought it might be fun to cover it from the perspective of what we do in our monthly previews and kind of reset for what we have to expect coming out of this ginormous event. Punch it! Hey Rebel Razzer, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. So if you're catching the YouTube version of this, then you will see that my background is a little bit different. I am in a hotel room in Southern California, not my final hotel room for Anaheim. I'm actually visiting with my mom, who lives in the Southern California area, for a couple of days before I head down to Anaheim for Celebration itself. But I'm getting just as excited for it as you are, I'm sure. So I thought maybe we would just reset our expectations a little bit with all the information that's been coming at us from all quarters, even through the month of May. I mean, it hasn't been a silent month in terms of Star Wars news by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought, yeah, let's reset and look at what we can expect from Star Wars Celebration in terms of the 12 major categories in which we find Star Wars storytelling. We'll start, as we usually do, with movies, and as we've discussed very recently, actually, there's nothing on the Star Wars Celebration schedule related to upcoming movies whatsoever. There is that Kathleen Kennedy comment from a recent interview where she said that they hope to reveal something more in a couple of months about movies, and the timing of that would line up with Star Wars Celebration, but it could have also been said to line up with the Disney quarterly investor call that happened earlier this month. So, yeah, I mean, we're all keeping our fingers crossed on that one. Live action, though, which is our second category, is where we are seeing the most action in terms of major events happening at Star Wars Celebration. There's, of course, the showcase event that's happening on Thursday, where they're going to talk about the Andor series and the Kenobi series and the Mandalorian, but they're going to be talking in depth about the Mandalorian on Saturday in the main event situation. So that leaves us with Ahsoka and the Acolyte that hopefully we will hear a little bit more about as well. I can't see a world where they don't name check the two of them at the very least on the Thursday main panel. But yeah, I mean, it seems like they should even consider having Rosario Dawson show up, because she's in The Mandalorian, she was in the Book of Boba Fett, she's going to be in the Ahsoka series, logic, right? So yeah, I feel like we should be seeing more about the Ahsoka series, and that's the one where, for all the stuff they have announced, that we're the closest to it and haven't heard anything about that yet. So that one feels like the easiest. Oh, of course we're going to get a surprise out of that. Then we have animation, and we now know that we're getting a Bad Batch panel on Sunday, so that's fantastic. And then we had that Christmas thing, that little sneak leak, as it were, about a series called Tales of the Jedi, which is going to be an animated anthology series. We're getting a panel about that. Still no word about A Droid Story, which is another animated series that was announced back in the Disney Investor Day in December of 2020, and where we think we've seen Anthony Daniels posting some very interesting things on his Instagram account that might indicate that he is in the middle of filming A Droid Story, or that he was at some point recently. For books, we've got at least 3, and maybe kind of a hybrid fourth, if you will. So there's going to be a looking forward Lucasfilm Publishing panel, which will cover both Del Rey and Disney Lucasfilm Press. There's also going to be another panel that deals with the nonfiction kinds of books from like Inside and DK and those publishers. There's going to be a panel that is specific to current books that are happening, and I think actually Adam Christopher from Shadow of the Sith is going to be there, and that's the next book that's going to come out. So yeah, current authors being published right at this particular moment. And then the hybrid one is the High Republic. So there's going to be a High Republic panel, which obviously is majorly a publishing initiative in books, but also has comics and manga and all this other stuff too. And speaking of comics, we may as well jump ahead to that one and say that there will be a Marvel Comics panel, but there is no Dark Horse Comics panel. And, we got a little bit of an announcement with the Dark Horse thing just the other day, actually toward the end of last week, with the This Week in Star Wars show reveal of that, but we don't necessarily have a lot of details on what's coming in the High Republic. So there's the other hybrid thing, because we'll surely talk about comics in the High Republic panel that's happening on Thursday as well. Then there's the audiobook category, and there is going to be a Penguin Random House audio panel happening at Celebration. I do think it would be fun for them to announce a new original at that point. I mean, they are doing them kind of like once a year, and we haven't heard anything about a new audio drama coming out for 2022, so it seems like this would be an appropriate place to announce something like that. Then we have the short stories category, and yeah, we're probably not going to hear much about this at all. Maybe they will confirm for us something that you can probably already very safely assume, which is that they will do an anthology series of short stories for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi next year. I mean, I think that stands to reason. And the only other place we really get short stories is the Star Wars Insider magazine, and there is no panel about Insider magazine. There hasn't been one for quite a few years, actually. Although the Stories of Jedi and Sith anthology is coming out and is actually going to be released early for attendees at Star Wars Celebration. There's going to be a Celebration edition of it. And that one is a middle grade anthology, so basically following in the footsteps of the Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark anthology that came out a couple of years ago. All right, so that's 7 categories so far, so we got 5 left. Virtual reality. I just got a press release from ILM X Lab talking about the fact that Matthew Wood is now going to be a part of their Tales from the Galaxy's Edge panel, which is very cool, but still there's no indication from the material that they've released that they're going to talk about what their next VR project is, and this would be the right place for them to hint at it, to be sure, but yeah, there's no indication of it at all right now. On the video game front, the only thing that had been mentioned in any of the scheduling is for Star Wars Hunters. That's the game that's coming out on Nintendo Switch. I think it's coming out in a couple other places, like maybe on iPhones and Androids and that sort of thing. But you may have seen rumors kicking around online about a potential title for the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. As far as I know, that is still just rumor and speculation. It's not necessarily confirmed, and there's nothing in the schedule right now at this late date for Star Wars Celebration Anaheim from EA. So yeah, I'm not expecting to see anything new about video games aside from Star Wars Hunters at this point. On the streaming front, the big news is that we're getting that panel on Friday about the ILM documentary. And then on the merchandising front, well, there's going to be a ton of merch there, but how much of it actually tells us something about Star Wars storytelling, tells us something about character or plot that we didn't necessarily know? Not a heck of a lot. However, on Wednesday, they are kicking off the Obi-Wan Kenobi merchandising initiative, and so maybe we'll start to see some interesting things come out of that. And finally, we have the live experiences category, which would primarily focus on Celebration itself, but also on what happens at the parks. So the Galaxy's Edge and the Galactic Star Cruiser. I'll remind you that Galactic Star Cruiser was not open at the time that the last Star Wars Celebration happened, which was in 2019, but neither was Galaxy's Edge. They were just previewing Galaxy's Edge. So it's now a whole new situation. This is the first time we're having a celebration where both of those experiences are and have been open to the public. So they're able to talk about them in much more in-depth and detailed ways. As for Celebration, well, they have had a history of announcing when the next celebration is going to be and where during the closing ceremonies, and sometimes that has meant that they were going to sell tickets the very next day for whatever the next celebration would be. It doesn't always happen like that, but one of the things that is pretty common is that they've announced when and where the next celebration event will be, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. And that right there is our reset for expectations of the types of news in relation to Star Wars storytelling that we are going to be hearing in just a few short days at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim 2022. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.